Hello, so reading again from Jung's Psychological Types. We're going to be covering extroversion today, but I'm just going to read the definition that's in the back of the book, so it'll be kind of in a nutshell, but there are so many ideas that feed into extroversion, so at some point I'm going to do a longer video that will cover it more comprehensively, but here's the short definition. Extraversion means an outturning of the libido. So we need a video on libido as well. For argument's sake, let's just call libido the psychic energy. So perhaps the person's focus or where they're putting their attention, either deliberately or non-deliberately. Okay, so extroversion is an outward turning of this focus. So, i.e., the person is focusing on something that is outer. With this concept, I denote a manifest relatedness of subject to object in the sense of a positive movement of subject interest towards the object. Okay, so that's where, so extroversion is a outturning of the libido, focusing attention upon the external object over focusing the attention inwardly towards the subject. So they're preferencing object focus over subject focus. Everyone in the state of extroversion thinks, feels, and acts in relation to the object, and moreover in a direct and clearly observable fashion, so that no doubt can exist about his positive dependence upon the object. So he needs the object to be there in order to extrovert, or in order to act, think, or feel. It requires the object. And note that Jung is also saying that we, as observers of that person, can tell that he is extroverting. Okay, so it is obvious. So he's focusing on something other than himself, and we can see it. In a sense, therefore, extroversion is an outgoing transference of interest from the subject to the object. If it is an intellectual extroversion, the subject thinks himself into the object. If a feeling extroversion, then the subject feels himself into the object. Alright, so we're also going to do videos on feeling into and thinking into, again, just in a very small nutshell. So the person who is in the state of extroversion feels or thinks himself into the object. So what he does is, it's like he takes a part of himself and places it into the object in order to interact with the object or understand it more or perceive it more clearly, or whatever it is. So he's bringing some of himself and placing it into the object. That's what feeling into is, but we'll go into that in more detail in another video. It's really fascinating. The state of extroversion means a strong, if not exclusive, determination by the object. One should speak of an active extroversion when deliberately willed, and of a passive extroversion when the object compels it, i.e., attracts the interest of the subject of its own accord, even against the latter's intention. A really simple analogy for that would be, say, if something happened very suddenly in the environment and the person quickly looked because they wanted to perceive or see what was happening. That's probably an example of that. I was just pondering a little bit more on this today, and I came up with the idea that, so it's not just about something randomly catching your attention and kind of interrupting whatever flow state you were in. It could also be the question of how influenceable are you from external sources. So you may have a real strong sense of self, or like you've made up your mind about something, or this is the way you do things, or this is the way you think or feel or believe, and then something external comes along. It doesn't have to be a concrete thing, it could be something like an idea or a person, anything that's external to you. Passive extroversion might be the idea of, are you still going to be focused on what you're focused on, or your opinions or whatever, are they going to be unrocked by the fact that this object has come along? And to what extent are you going to feel into it? To what extent are you going to be influenced by it at the expense of what's already there within you? Should the state of extroversion become habitual, the extroverted type appears. Okay, so if a person more often than not is perceiving objects outside of himself, trying to understand objects outside of himself, feeling into them, thinking into them, in some way interacting either literally or metaphorically with objects, things, nouns, even abstract concepts outside of himself, the libido is turning towards them. If he does that on a regular basis, then he is probably an extroverted type, according to Jung. All right, stay tuned for more. Thank you.